Any overage player, Jesse, for you, and obviously any comments you want to make about the Olympics overall?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few thoughts about this. So I have guys that I would love to see on the team, but they're playing in Europe. And let me give you a little bit of perspective of how things are thought about in Europe. When I took over Leipzig, it was the year of the Euros and the year of the Olympics. And I had Dani Olmo on my team. And Danny asked me, he wanted to play, he was playing for Spain. He wanted to play in both the Euros and in the Olympics. And, you know, when you look at Spain in a tournament and whether the youth tournaments or the highest level tournaments, you're always thinking, okay, they have potential to get to the final, but probably for sure the semifinal. So when I looked at then Danny's overall commitment, if he wanted to do both, basically over a 8-week period, he was only going to be free for 4 days. And then he wanted to go so badly that he wanted to come directly to camp after the Olympics. And normally we give 3 weeks off in Europe after any major tournament for players to have time off, have a vacation, enjoy some free time, because often it's the only time they have all year. So reluctantly and against the club's wishes when I was at Leipzig, I allowed Danny to play in the Olympics. And I did it because I wanted to invest in our relationship long term and show him that I wanted to support him in a big way. But he came back. I gave him a week off after the Olympics. I think they went to the semifinal in both. And then when he came back to training, he got hurt 2 weeks later. And in my time in Leipzig, I think he only played 20 minutes for me. He hardly ever played. And this was a factor in how the team performed. And
wait, Jesse, do you regret letting him go now?
I do regret letting him go. I do. And it was like his dream to play in the Olympics, right? But I think in the end, his these players, I think Dani Olmo is getting paid $5 million, $6 million by Leipzig a year. And his commitment to the team is the most, and the club is the most important thing. And I at that moment, I let the team down and I let the club down by allowing him to do that. So if I had to go back and do it again, I think it was a mistake. I would have said, sorry, Danny, I know it's your dream, but you have to choose between the Euros and the Olympics. And
the Euros is a competition that he'd have to go no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but if your dream is truly to go to the Olympics, then and Euros, you could probably visit to going again, but it's always difficult for players to manage this, clubs to manage this, coaches, the whole bit. So, when I thought about our Olympic team, the guy I would love to see the most in the middle of it all is Tyler Adams, because I think, he's a real leader. He could help push the team. But I don't think it's best for him, especially coming off of injury, to now be trying to commit to 2 tournaments in one summer, and he needs to limit his overall time and training because he can be injury prone. So then I thought about, all right, which guys do I think, what is necessary when you bring in an overage player? Well, you need some experience, but I think you also need real leaders, someone that can bring the team together, someone that all the young players in the team can look up to, that they like, but they see the way they train, they see their mentality. And then I thought of Aaron Long. And I think Aaron Long will probably not be in consideration for Copa America. Maybe he'll be right on the bubble, so depending on injuries and who's available and everything else. But he's still a guy with some international experience. 31 years old is not so old that he starts to push himself outside of what is the highest level of performance. And if you know Aaron Long, the one thing about him is he loves being in a team. He loves being a leader. He loves engaging the entire group. And I think when you have a team like the Olympic team, that's not a real team that's coming together in a short amount of time. You need not just a quality overage player that they can look to as in terms of what he can deliver from a performance perspective on the pitch, but you also need somebody that in the group is a real galvanizer, that loves to be around the team and can really bring the spirit together, so that gives them the best chance to perform. So that would be the guy. That would be the guy I'd be thinking about.
Yeah, what's interesting, and I'm glad you brought up a center back, because I feel like the U23s are pretty thin in that particular area, which is why I think this is a really important camp for Miles Robinson and potentially James Sands as well, who have shown they can play in that position, they can hold their own. But I don't know if either one of those is the type of leader that you're describing. So I'm kind of curious as to which one can step up. And this is a big camp for them to demonstrate that they can have that type of leadership and can galvanize a group and help a team work through adversity on the fields when things maybe aren't going well. How do you smooth things out? How do you regain control of the game and all that good stuff? So my vote would be someone in the center back position, Miles Robinson or James Sands. How about you, Chuck Davies?
So when I look at this Olympic group, their strength is in the midfield. They have a number of players from the U20 World Cup team to players who are playing in MLS, even guys like Tanner Tessman, who are playing in Italy, has played in Serie, now playing in Serie B, have a ton of experience, who are seasoned vets. Kind of reminds me of when I was coming up under 23s, that our midfield was a strength. We had a number of seasoned vets, and I look at this group and I'm really impressed with the depth that they have in the midfield. Josh Atencio, Jack McGlynn, Diego Luna, Gianluca Busio, Benja Kramaski, Paxton Aronson, Tanner Tessman, Aiden Morris, Obed Vargas. So you don't need, because typically you look at the spine of the group, you say, okay, where can we add the 3 overage players? The midfield, I don't think they need an overage player. Now, center back is the weakest in this pool. And so in my mind, you could bring 2 center backs, overage players, and the third would probably be a striker, because you love what you've seen in terms of the options. If you have Balogun and Pepe, who are both age eligible, but like Jesse said, if you're playing and you're a big part of the team, Balogun's not going to be allowed to leave, because he'll say, okay, you got Copa America, you're not playing in both. Ricardo Pepe's an interesting one, because if he's not going to be a starter per se for Copa America, he's not going to start with 2 strikers and him and Balogun, or he's not really, alternating games between Balogun. If Balogun's form had dropped off or he becomes injured, maybe there's a scenario where you say, we're not going to bring Pepe to Copa America because we want him to start and lead the line in the Olympics. But I mean, Josh Sargent would probably be the guy that I'd want, because if you have Pepe and Balogun, you're only playing 1 striker, then maybe Josh Sargent would be the perfect guy to bring in as an overage striker in this group. But I think when it comes down to the center backs, I'm looking at Mark McKenzie and Austin Trusty, because Austin Trusty is a left-footed center back. We don't have too many left-footed center backs, so someone who earned a hell of a lot of minutes and respect in the championship last season with Birmingham. I spoke to all the Arsenal players, including Arteta and Odegaard, in the summer when they came over to DC United for the All-Star game.
Easy on the flex, dude. Come on.
And they were really impressed. They were impressed with Trusty. They were like, he looks like a different player this time around in training. He's holding up. He's not standing up being like, oh, this player's way off the pace. So they were really impressed with Trusty, and they thought there was a chance that maybe he doesn't leave. He ultimately left for Sheffield United, and I don't blame him, because he left for a chance to play, and he's getting consistent minutes with Sheffield. So in terms of a long-term play, I mean, Trusty's 23 years old. Mark McKenzie is just aged out. I think he's 20. He's going to be 24. So I think those are 2 players that fit the dynamic, because you also want the overage players to not feel out of place, because you don't want them to be, it's almost like, I don't get how you guys are vibing, like you want someone who's like still feels like part of the group and guys will look up to, yet, they still have a future potentially with the U.S. men's national team. So I like the 2 center backs and maybe a striker for the 3 overage players, and McKenzie and Trusty would be probably the 2 center backs that I looked up to, because I don't think Chris Richards and Miles Robinson would be allowed to leave.